Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this middle of the week Wednesday as we seem to keep getting nickeled and dimed by snow events here in our area, at least. Was really odd yesterday because we had marginally cold air. It kind of reminded me more of a snowfall in mid to late March than it did in early December, but whatever. Uh, we had temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. We had people getting sleet with the temperatures at that level. The air aloft was cold enough to support um, wet snow, and while it was all elevation driven, some areas received 2 to 4 inches across northern New Jersey and the Hudson Valley. Again, it was very much elevation driven. You could go to one spot and have absolutely nothing, and then go up about 500 to 1,000 feet, and you had snow cover. So it was just sort of that kind of event. And now we're going to make the transition over to some colder air. There's a weather front on the surface map this morning that's out to the west, and behind it, the first of what looks like a series of cold air masses that are going to be coming into the United States over the next couple of weeks. And it's likely that each one is going to be progressively colder. One of them may wind up being quite cold, in fact, depending on how it sets up. But for now, the first air mass is set to arrive tomorrow, and the question is, the front ahead of it may or may not have a little bit of a wave on it that'll produce some light precipitation. But for the most part, the weather around the country is pretty quiet. If just going to zoom out here on the satellite loop, and you can kind of see there really isn't much weather happening. Yesterday's old system is now moving through Maine, and when we go down into the southern plains, we have some precipitation across Kansas. And in the west, we have nothing. So it's pretty quiet for the most part. So I think we can spend our time today talking about the upper air pattern and where we're going to be going forward. So right now, what you're looking at is the prospective jet stream for this coming Sunday, because we do have a weather system that's going to be coming out of the plains, and you can see it there. There's a actually, I'm sorry. I've just got to be careful with the dates. After a while, this stuff starts to look the same, but that's what we just went through. Okay, I'm looking at December 4th, and I'm thinking, okay, this is December 7th. All right, so there we go. So there's our weather system from yesterday, and it has now moved on through. And here we are for tomorrow, where we have this vortex here, and that a bit of a trough coming through. So that's going to mark the arrival of cold air. And if you follow the flow, it's coming pretty much straight out of Asia, Siberia. There's a big high sitting north of northeasternmost Asia, northwestern Alaska, right in there. There's a big upper high, so that's steering cold air into Canada and into the United States. And in the meantime, we still have this active Pacific jet, and that continues to be the case here. And we're going to be looking at a couple of these weather systems going forward. They are going to be the players that we're going to be dealing with. Now, watch what happens as this first thing pulls out. This first vortex pulls out, but unlike before where we had the vortex pulling out and then being replaced by a ridge, everything's kind of locked up in the atmosphere up here. So another vortex forms, and you can see it here. Here's the first one going into Monday, this coming Monday, and here's the second one now, and you're getting this really cold flow coming down out of Canada. There are no big storms in this setup because of how broad the trough is. It's not, sharp like a V. It's kind of more gentle like the bottom of a U. So when you have that, energy is basically spread out over a large area. It's not concentrated. So as a result, you don't have big storms. You still have systems moving along in the Pacific jet, and we're going to see where that takes us. But that vortex then strengthens, lifts up and out, and then as we move through time, as we now are into the middle part of December, you can see the same thing happens. As one lifts out, a new one forms. So we continue to see cold air. So this is kind of sustained here in terms of the cold air. It may not necessarily be below normal every single day consecutively, because in between there will be weather systems to deal with, and depending on track might determine there might be a brief warm up where it warms up and rains ahead of it in some places, and we'll show you specifically in just a second. But you still have these troughs out in the Pacific and you've got this deep trough now in the eastern part of the United States. This is for December 15th, and the flow is clearly coming down from the coldest parts of the globe. So we're setting up for a pretty wintry period going forward in terms of temperatures. Now, in terms of precipitation, that may be a different story. So let's take a look at what the U.S. here has to say on the surface. So we'll go to the surface map, and we'll put that up. And we're going to back this out and see what this model has to tell us. I guess from that first map, if you looked at it quick, you may have seen something off the southeast coast of the United States. So let's see how this evolves. So here we go into this weekend. It's pretty cold here, and then the high moves out off the Maryland coast. You can see this next low is trying to track toward the Great Lakes, and then kind of stretches out and redevelops to our south and east. So there's a little bit of precip with that. The European has a bit of a different view on this. It has the same idea, but it has a surface low from last night. It took a surface low much further to the south, and that would still probably mean the same thing because of where the high goes. The high goes out to the east, so that creates kind of a southerly flow ahead of it. Sometimes if you're in a really deep Arctic air mass, you can stay cold with that for a while, but for coastal areas, that southerly wind comes off the water, so it does warm up at least for a day or so. Not too particularly bullish with that. And then you have this front that comes through here early next week, and it kind of has the look like there might be some kind of a wave on it. I'm not so sure. We'll have to just wait and see how it plays out. I think we'll have to see what the European has to say with this. And then in comes the next cold air mass for later next week. This one looks to be a little colder than the one that's coming in for the end of this week. Then that moves out, and there's a third cold air mass coming in behind it. This is for the middle of February, and the question is whether the model is correct in generating some kind of a low off the East Coast, and you can see it here. And here's the leading edge of the cold air that's coming down with the next high. In the meantime, not to neglect the rest of the country, because I can only keep my eyes on one place at a time, so we'll back up, and you can take a look and see that the low that comes through for early next week originally through the northern Rockies and spread snow through the plains and the Dakotas and the Great Lakes. So there could be some snow here for Chicago and Detroit and Milwaukee, among other places, and including Minneapolis perhaps. And then that moves east and it brings snow to the interior Northeast. And then the next system that follows into the west, you can see it here. This eventually just kind of lingers there. There's not too much happening, although there's something coming in off the west coast. And you have this system here in the east that for the moment is shown to be pretty farther south. But this is a really cold shot of air for this time of year. This would be temperatures well below normal, probably about 20 degrees below normal or more if this pans out. The core of the cold air, this is probably Arctic air that is being shown as it comes down out of Canada for around the 16th. So here's what I think for the next 7 days. The weather is going to be relatively calm. We'll probably see, this is for the New York, New Jersey, Long Island area specifically, because somebody asked me to do this, so I'm accommodating. But for the next 7 days, I'm thinking it should be fine. It's going to turn pretty cold going into this weekend. Teens and 20s by day, depending on where you are. 30s, by night, and 30s by day. Then a chance for precipitation. Could be a little bit of snow at the start, late Sunday night into Monday, going over to some rain, and then turning sharply colder after that. And then we'll have to see as a really cold air mass comes in for the latter part of next week, whether that's going to mean some kind of storm ahead of it or not. Remember, the models have predicted 20 out of the last 2 storms correctly. So, you can't really go too crazy with what's being displayed in the long range. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's more than likely that you're going to see something pop up inside the 7-day period that the model didn't really see in its long range view, rather than seeing something predicted in the long range that winds up being gospel. So we know that whatever we see here is going to change somewhat. I think the cold part of the equation, though, looks to be pretty firm, at least through the next 10 days. And in fact, we have now out a little further, and you can the core of the cold air. Now we're into December 16th, and the core of this high is in the core of this cold air is now beginning. The second cold air mass is beginning to move out, but we may already be setting up for a third one. I'll widen out just so we can take a look and see if we have out far enough. And sadly, we don't. So we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. So in the meantime, I want everybody to have a really, really, really nice day, and check back tomorrow. And of course, you can check all the latest posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com, and also download my app if you want to subscribe to my specific forecast for New York City, Long Island, Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. The download is free. The subscription is just 99 cents. It's $1 a month, and you get an ad-free experience, and it goes a long way to support me. And I have to feed my cat, so it helps me buy cat food, right? He's a little boy. He's just a good boy. Say hi to everybody. So anyhow, have a great day, and the link to the app is up on the screen here. And by all means, no one is obligated, but I really do appreciate it. Have a great day.